Well, it's one thing you can always count on is for the twice impeached, racist, criminally convicted felon-in-chief to do all he can to attack black people. So last night, Chief Dumbass issued two executive orders. This is the first executive order, making the District of Columbia safe and beautiful. Now, remember, they've already screwed us when it came to Black Lives Matter Plaza. Okay, they've already screwed us. In fact, I mean, just so you understand, you know, in terms of what these folks have done, is just, I mean, it's just an abomination what they've done. Actually, come back to me. I'm gonna scroll in a second. What they've done is abomination. You know, I was outside. I'm gonna do this here. Give me 1 second. I'm going to. Just so y'all know, this is what the latest is, and how they've just completely chopped up and just messed up 16th Street, which actually leads to the White House. You know, Republicans forced the District of Columbia to spend almost $1 million tearing up the streets because they did not like Black Lives Matter being on the street. It was a monument that was created. And so as a result, I shot these photos yesterday. Give me a second, I'm connecting on my iPad so you can see what it looks like. And again, these so-called fiscal conservatives, let me say it again, so-called fiscal conservatives demanded that Washington, D.C. do this. This is what it looks like right now. That right there, it's going to take, so that it wasn't just painted. They literally built it. Into the ground. So they sat there, and that's it right there. And just so you understand, this is the road that leads to the White House. If I zoom in, you will see that is the White House right there. And so these folks, these Republicans, they force the district. Threatened to withhold transportation money from the district if they did not follow their orders. They made them do this. They did not care. They don't care. They didn't ask the people of Washington, D.C. It does not matter for them. Hey, we control Congress, so therefore we control your purse strings. So you know what? We gonna make y'all do whatever we want y'all to do. I also shot some video. Give me 1 second. I want to show that to y'all as well, because I mean, and it's just a damn shame how these people are operating, and so they want to totally control Washington, D.C. They want to force the mayor of D.C., force the city council to be on bended knee to whatever they want. This is the video that I shot of them also working on the street, tearing it up. So that's what's going on here in the nation's capital. And so here's what Trump did, y'all. So you see right here, he says, let's see here, blah, blah, blah. He wants to talk about how it needs to be clean and well kept. So you see right here, fighting crime. What's going to happen right here? My administration shall work closely with local officials to share information, develop joint priorities, maximize resources to make the District of Columbia safe. And so he's listing all these departments, creating these task force as well. You see right here, task force shall coordinate to ensure effective federal participation in the following tasks: directing maximum enforcement of federal immigration law, redirecting available federal, state, and local law enforcement resources to apprehend and deport illegal aliens, monitor the District of Columbia's sanctuary city status and compliance, provide assistance to facilitate the prompt and complete accreditation of the D.C. Forensic Crime Laboratory. Also, in collaboration with his leadership and union, providing MPD with assistance to facilitate the recruitment, retention, and capabilities of its police officers. And it goes on and on and on. And so You see, deploying a more robust federal law enforcement presence and coordinating with local law enforcement to facilitate the deployment of a more robust law enforcement. They just repeat shit. They don't even read executive orders. They just repeat stuff. Okay, so you look at all the different parks or whatever. Then you see here, the Secretary of the Interior is going to make the District of Columbia beautiful, and so blah blah. Remove graffiti from commonly visited areas. Blah 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 blah. General provisions. Blah 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 blah. Blah 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 blah. Okay, so that's when it relates to D.C. Then, of course, it also was about the Smithsonian. So here's what they did. They then called this Restoring Truth and Sanity to American History. That's what this is called, okay? Restoring Truth and Sanity to American History. So they sit here and they write that over the past decade, Americans have witnessed a concerted and widespread effort to rewrite our nation's history, replacing objective facts with a distorted narrative driven by ideology rather than truth. Oh, the revisionist movement seeks to undermine the remarkable achievements of the United States by casting its founding principles and historical milestones in a negative light. Under the historical revision, our nation's unparalleled legacy of advancing liberty, individual rights, and human happiness is reconstructed as inherently racist, sexist, oppressive, or otherwise irredeemably flawed. All Donald Trump. Rather than fostering unity and a deeper understanding of our shared past, the widespread effort to rewrite history deepens societal divides and fosters a sense of national shame, disregarding the progress America has made and the ideals that continue to inspire millions around the globe. So what does he do? So watch this here. So he talks about once widely respected as a symbol of American excellence and a global icon of cultural achievement, the Smithsonian Institution has in recent years come under the influence of a divisive, race-centered ideology. This shift has promoted narratives that portray American and Western values, white, as inherently harmful and oppressive. For example, the Smithsonian American Art Museum today features The Shape of Power, Stories of Race and American Sculpture, an exhibit representing that, quote, societies, including the United States, have used race to establish and maintain systems of power, privilege, and disenfranchisement. Not a lie told, not one. The exhibit further claims that sculpture has become a powerful tool in promoting scientific racism and promotes the view that race is not a biological reality, but a social construct, stating race is a human invention. But it is. And then here we go. The National Museum of African American History and Culture has proclaimed that, quote, hard work, individualism, and the nuclear family are aspects of white culture. So here we go with this nonsense. So what do? Say the Smithsonian, so he's going to put Vice President J.D. Vance over this whole deal. They want to change the structure of the Board of Regents. You see right here, it goes on and on and on, on and on and on. Restoring Independence Hall, blah, 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 blah. Oh, and here we go. Section 4, Restoring Truth in American History. The Secretary of the Interior shall, quote, determine whether since January 1st, 2020, public monuments, memorials, statues, markers, or similar properties within the Department of Interior's jurisdiction have been removed or changed to perpetuate a false reconstruction of American history, inappropriately minimize the value of certain historical events or figures, or include any other improper partisan ideology. And here's where it comes. Let's bring back the white power symbols. He wants him to take action to reinstate the pre-existing monuments, memorials, statues, markers, or similar properties as appropriate and consistent with blah, 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 blah. Y'all, all this is about is how do we bring back whiteness? How do we bring back white culture, white dominance? That's all this is, Michael. It's abundantly clear.
Absolutely. And this is something we were warning people about before the election. But this goes back. So first of all, I read the fact sheet on this executive order that Donald Trump did on Thursday. This goes back to his first term in office when Donald Trump attacked the 1619 Project and said basically it was anti-American, said he didn't know anything about the year 1619. He said he knew about 1776. He created the 1776 Project, which created a ahistorical version of history. He also attacked critical race theory. And he was attacking critical race theory. He did an executive order in September 2020 that banned the use of critical race theory in training for federal employees. This was 6 months before Christopher Rufo started publicly his tweets, really attacking critical race theory. So, and then you see him talking about in the past 5 years, renaming monuments, things of that nature. He's talking about the racial reckoning that took place after the killing of George Floyd in this country that spread all across the country. And we've been talking about how there's going to be a white backlash to that whole Black Lives Matter movement. And this is what we're seeing right now. And he's talking about going after the funding, because part of this talks about prohibiting funding for exhibits or programs that degrade shared American values, divide Americans by race, or promote ideologies inconsistent with federal law. And he's talking about the Smithsonian Institute, their exhibits, et cetera, the African American Museum. So this is a direct attack, a continued attack on African-American history, but also going after the funding that funds these exhibits also. So this is on top of removing Executive Order 11246, which was affirmative action. This is on top of revoking Executive Order 13985 from the Biden administration, which dealt with equity when it came to the different federal agencies, things of this nature. So this is devastating, but we're going to have to fight this as well.
Derek, let's go back to June 11th, 2020. And if you go to my iPad, this is from NPR. Congress heads towards clash with Trump over removal of Confederate symbols. And so, here we go right here. Okay, the Republican-led Senate Armed Services Committee, let me get rid of this, adopted an amendment that will create a commission charged with renaming Army installations that bear Confederate names and removing their Confederate symbols. Okay? Now remember, the House had already voted to purge the Capitol of Confederate statues. And so here we go, we got more. And so the reality is, the Republicans did not want to do it. Okay? You see right here, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell noted that the statues in the Capitol come from the 50 states. He argued they should decide which ones they send to Washington. Every state is allowed 2 statues. They can trade them out at any time. I think that's the appropriate way to deal with the statue issue. The states make that decision. Well, we already know racist states like Mississippi love their Confederate symbols. Okay, so look at this here. House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy said on Thursday he isn't opposed to renaming military installations. Other Republicans said they too were open to moving ahead with a process at the federal level to remove the old Confederate names. Guess what? Trump was not happy. You see right here, the White House dug in this week on standing by the current names of a number of Army bases named for Confederate commanders, including Robert E. Lee, who commanded the Confederate Army, Braxton Bragg, and others. Trump wrote on Twitter on Wednesday that he considered the door closed to renaming military installations after Defense Secretary Mark Esper had appeared to open it, and Press Secretary Kayleigh McEnany reiterated that the administration believes the name should stay. Now, just in case I need to remind y'all of what this was like, listen to the racist language that was used, because I just want y'all to understand. And oh, by the way, She's now an anchor at Fox News. Listen. All right, trying to get to play here, so give me 1 second. See, y'all, these folks here, it's real clear who they are. It's real clear what they stand for. It's real clear who they actually represent. All right, here we go. Listen to this.
Fort Bragg is known for the heroes within it that trained there, that deployed from there, and it's an insult to say to the men and women who left there the last thing they saw on American soil before going overseas, and in some cases losing their lives, to tell them that what they left was inherently a racist institution because of a name. That's unacceptable to the president, and rightfully so. And I would also note, where do you draw the line here? I'm told that no longer can you find on HBO Gone with the Wind because somehow that is now offensive. Where do you draw the line? Should George Washington and Thomas Jefferson and James Madison be erased from history? What about FDR and because of internment camps? Should he be erased from history, or Lyndon Johnson, who has a history of documented racist statements? And finally, what about people that are alleged by the media to be segregationists? NBC tells us Joe Biden didn't just compromise with segregationists, he fought for their causes in schools, experts say. CNN tells us letters from Joe Biden reveal how he sought support of segregationists in the fight against busing. And Washington Post tells us that Biden's tough talk on 1970s schools desegregation plans could get him new scrutiny. And there are
complaint. And see, Matt, this is real simple. They are appealing to the white racists in the Republican Party. That's all this is.
And one of the ways that they do that is framing everything as black as somehow being ideological. I mean, we talked about that the last week on the show, but that's what's so insidious and just malicious about it. It's a lot of this stuff is just purely historical fact that is being cast as somehow being ideological because it's black people. And to your point, a lot of the way you see their rhetoric surrounding this being sold is this idea of why are we allowing people to co-opt America? We need to take it back by virtue of sanitizing history. Basically, people are lying about what the history is. But we know, number one, the truth of the history is indispensable contributions by black people, just across the board, number one. But number two, if you take ideology out of it and it's purely historical, I don't know how you make that, a political issue or make it an issue of one group of people versus another, whereas it's just a demonstrable fact. So I say that to say this. That's exactly what they're appealing to. That's exactly who they're appealing to. And it's terrifying that in this country, there's a large contingent of people who will see something as black and see it as immediately being ideologically slanted or somehow being, it's carrying out some Marxist ideology or some far liberal ideology or whatever, when it's fact, historical fact. And the interesting thing about this is, as it relates specifically to the Confederacy, a lot of their objection, or at least purported objection, is this idea that people are not promoting American values. They're not adopting American values. They're not standing strong for America and what she stands for. But that's literally what the Confederacy did not do. It literally seceded from the United States of America and fought a war to have its own supremacy. I mean, that is like per se treason. And it's crazy to me that in the same breath, people who are in support of renaming these military bases and putting back up these monuments to Confederate people can not understand the intellectual cognitive dissonance that lies in that kind of statement, and the idea that you've got to be more American by standing up for American values and promoting American values, but I should have the right to promote the best example of a contingent of people who did not promote American values. And they'll never answer that hypocrisy, because it isn't about being logically, consistent. It's about blackness, and it's about anti-blackness, and it's about making anything that is tangentially related to black be the enemy. And we're seeing that, and it's terrifying that people are allowing that. I mean, to this end, I'm a part of a committee here in the local town that puts on an annual parade. And I didn't know this, but as of, 5 or 10 years ago, there was like a group of Confederates who would march in this parade. And I told the people I was involved with, there's absolutely no way I'll be involved if they're involved. They're no longer involved. But just as recently as 5 years ago, people were still coming out with Confederate flags and demanding their opportunity to march down the street with heritage. You only do that if your heritage is about hate and if you want to thumb your nose in the face of people who recognize that it's about hate and who call you on that. I mean, that's what we're seeing with this administration. And when you hear it from your neighbors, when you hear it from people down the street, it's abhorrent. When you hear it from the White House, it's terrifying because they've got the means to enact policies that put that hate into practice into ways we've seen it happen over the course of American history.
So here's what they're doing, Derek. Go to my iPad. So here's a perfect example. So when the grossly unqualified Fox News anchor Peter Hegseth became Secretary of Defense, he began to do the reversal of the Army bases. And so they changed Fort Benning. They changed that. What they also did was change Fort Liberty. But here's the deal. This is how shameful they are. So Fort Bragg was named after a Confederate general. Okay, that's what it used to be named after, Braxton Bragg. But then he got cute by renaming it after Private First Class Roland Bragg, a World War II veteran awarded the Silver Star and Purple Heart. Then he did the same thing for another particular base as well. So what they're doing is using same names. These people are a joke, but what they're appealing to is whiteness. They're tapping into the buttons of white people who go, how dare you change our history? They want these Confederate monuments to remain. This is about appeasing whiteness. We got to call this thing what it is. It's playing up to them. It's embracing them. This is about white culture, white dominance over history, white dominance over everything.
Yeah, Roland, you're exactly right. And I definitely agree what has been mentioned, but I just want to add a couple of points. Right? They're not just doing this at the federal level, they're also doing this at the state level, right? Their whole goal in whitewashing at the federal and at the state level, this Heritage Foundation, is to make sure they sanitize everything of the past, uplift their culture, and then so 50 years from now, Roland, you wouldn't even think that we contribute anything to the United States. You wouldn't think that Frederick Douglass lived or Dr. King lived. And so we're fighting at the state level here in Georgia several egregious bills. So we're getting this from the federal level and at the state level. But in the bottom line here is that it's up to us, Roland, and everything that you have mentioned tonight, that make sure that we preserve our culture, that we preserve our history. And that's the reason why Black media platforms such as yours is to make sure that we get this information out. We mobilize and organize in a manner to realize that it may be Smithsonian today, but tomorrow it may be Dr. King's statue. They may want to remove all the Dr. King street names across the United States. I think there's like 113 Dr. King streets. And so this fight, we have to have the endurance. We have to have the stamina to fight them at the federal level and at the state level.
Hello, I'm Isaac Hayes III, founder and CEO of Fanbase. Listen to what I'm about to tell you. The window to invest in Fanbase is closing. We've raised over $10.6 million of our $17 million goal. That means there's room for less than 6,370 people to invest in Fanbase for the average amount. The minimum to invest in Fanbase right now is $399. That makes you an owner in Fanbase today. Go to startengine.com/fanbase to invest. Why? Because current social apps have taken advantage of users for far too long, with content suppression, shadow banning, harmful racist content, and no real tools for monetization and equity. Fanbase has over 1.4 million users and counting, allowing anyone to reach all their following and monetize their content from day one. Social media is the new TV, and whoever owns the apps that distribute that content have the opportunity to own potential billion-dollar companies. While big platforms with uncertain futures are failing to serve their users, Fanbase is stepping up to fill the gap. Don't wait until it's too late. Invest now, invest for yourself and your future. Go to startengine.com/fanbase and own the next generation of social media.